Hello, my better people. As if they're hot now like that, and they drop up. It don't happen though. Senate don't approve the request of $21 billion loan to President Tinubu. Not be that won't be my problem because we they always they borrow to spend for politicians' pockets. This has caused a lot of backlash. People don't come out, can't they ask questions? I beg Rufai of Arise TV don't talk things. I beg people not listen to waiting this guy talk. Not be smarty by better people. Please watch the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Also subscribe.
On the flip side of it, we have a very, healthy foreign reserves. But the question is, we've got foreign reserves, at the same time we're still incurring a lot of loans. So the economic dilemma is something. And we had not sorted out the project we had on ground, but we started incurring more. Take, for instance, this Eastern Corridor project they talked about. It was a project under President Buhari. In fact, it was launched in 2021. And what happened to the project? Only one phase was completed. And now, the threshold then was about 3 billion. Today, we're still collecting about 3 billion. Time value of money has been a problem on that project. And the hitherto loans that we collected and the funding patterns we use for that project, we are shifting those funding patterns, trying to get other loans for that project. That project has not been completed. Correct me if I'm wrong. How do we manage projects in this country? Look at the coastal road. We have always talked about the funding. It was said to be about close to 15 trillion. They said they launched the first phase of it about 30 kilometers. Anyway, there have been disputes back and forth about even the threshold of the 30 kilometers that was launched. Some said they've done more, some said they've done less. But now we have to go look for money, over $700 million for this, at a time where people are suffering in this country. Yes, a lot of people are going to make the argument, Rufai, we need infrastructure to be able to grow. You need to open up that corridor. Yes, but also we also need priorities. So we keep increasing the loan threshold. Cumulatively, where most of this money goes in, the loan will be going to about over 100, close to 140 trillion threshold. With other expenditure and loans to be collected to in this timeline, definitely might go more than the 135, 140 trillion threshold. At the same time, where the argument that was made for removal of subsidy was, we will take less loans and we'll be able to plow the money into development. So where are the gains for that subsidy? And these are the questions, and that's why you have a lot of economic imbalance. And that's why you have a lack of productivity, despite even the rebasing of the economy. It shows to a large extent we do not have a lot of productivity because we're still the fourth economy on the African continent. About 243 billion for about 199 billion. For a population of over 200 million. This was the same economy that as of 2014 had a threshold of over 500 billion. So what do we do? I'll put forward a couple of suggestions as regards how we can do projects. The need for partnerships. But how would those partnerships work? We've seen some of them work in this tax credit scheme. To revitalize the rail line, the need for partnerships. Probably looking at also decentralizing the National Railway Corporation so that we do not have to have people that will buy government cabins and coaches for the trains alone. Maybe you can have some private people also come in. We've seen it work with some projects. We've seen it work with the likes of Dangote and the likes. There are tax rebates, yes, and they get the project done. Probably some people will argue with a better threshold of accountability rather than loading up our loan books I will have to pay interest on. Because when we make the argument, this government has collected a lot of loans, people will say, no, we need the money for development. But that was the same cesspit we went through under President Buhari. And the question is, what's the viability of this project? The need for return on investment. How viable has the Lagos-Ibadan rail line been? What has it brought back to our coffers? And you see all of this conversation on how viable corruption with projects and things like that also span to the P&ID projects. If you read Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's book, she talked about extensively how people use judgment debts. They will deliberately ensure that they sign contracts with government, things are not executed, they'll take the government to go exactly the replica of what happened in P&ID. When the P&ID revelation came up, we saw a lot of people working in government, acting against government. And that's why the judge says he can't just understand how that happened. And sometimes the things that happen in Nigeria is so abysmal. So all of these are intertwined. And we still have many cases of judgment debts we are still trying to sort out here and there. And some that we are still fighting in some climes. So we need to have a renewed approach to be able to fund our project, and we need to prioritize. Is this the time for those heavy liftings like the coastal road, impacting our loan profile? Should we really be doing this at this point in time? There are basics that people need that are not being met. Yeah, we're building large roads, but over 80% of the hospitals, primary healthcare centers are not in great shape in this country. And we're building roads, but primary healthcare centers are not in great shape. Educational system not in great shape. Isn't it time for us to introspect? Let's have a conversation this morning.
What are the issues? Let's start with the Senate approving 21.5 billion on the global loan request by the Tinubu administration. Well, the first question to ask is, will anybody be surprised? This is a National Assembly, a Senate that is committed to defending the interests of the executive. ironically, symbolically, historically. We have, at this time, a Senate that says we are one-on-one with the executive of the federal government of Nigeria. Why, they deny it, some of them deny it consistently, but the truth is that from what we have seen, anything that the executive takes to the Senate passes, which, is contrary to Baron de Montesquieu's policy principle about the separation of powers. So nobody is surprised that this is the case. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he presented that proposal to the Senate, said that this would be about infrastructure, about education, about the health sector, provide relief to Nigerians. So they wanted more money from the EU, they wanted more money from the Japanese, they wanted more money from anywhere else to fund issues in infrastructure, education, health, infrastructure, and all of that. The question we ask, every Senate defines its own character. So this has been passed. But Nigerians will ask the question, what is going to happen hereafter? There's nothing wrong. The professionals tell us, the professionals tell us, the economists, that there's nothing wrong in borrowing. It is what you do with it that matters. So what are they going to do with this approval of $21.5 billion? The ordinary Nigerian people will expect that this would translate to developments and advancements and opportunities in terms of provisions within the social sector. Would this be the case? This is a question to be asked. So this comprehensive borrowing for the 2025-26 fiscal year, these are the questions that Nigerians would ask. When it happens, we will say that it has happened. Now, in the case of the PINID, now this was a subject that we delved into on this table for a very long time. Now, what was the issue? The big issue here is not about Sir Robert Knowles, judge of the commercial court in England, saying, well, he didn't know what happened. No, what he was alluding to, that he did not expressly point out, is the fact about the behavior of Nigerian authorities. In the course of that case, we saw how officials of the federal government mismanaged their positions. We saw how there were controversies over the place of arbitration. We saw how the Nigerian government itself was wrong-footing itself in terms of how, which judgment was appropriate and all of that, in a matter that could have been very clear. Sir Robert Knowles, in giving the final judgment, tried, of course, to resolve the issues by issuing the judgment in the favor of Nigeria. The lesson from it is that the Nigerian authorities, either Ministry of Finance or other agencies involved, should know that in other transactions, should know how to go about it. They gave the PINID contract to an agency that was not even fully privileged or knowledgeable about the business. There were allegations of corruption. So it didn't follow the normal pattern. So that's why Sir Robert Knowles can come around at an event on Monday in London at the Treasury Institute of Arbitrators in London and say that he didn't know what happened, because Nigeria always presents the world with what didn't happen elsewhere. That's the lesson there, and the lesson there is to prevent that kind of arbitrary behavior that seems to be standard practice in Nigeria.